Okay, so today my only goal is to turn you into a guitar god. Or I show you a couple of chords, one of those two things. But one thing I definitely will do today is talk about Django Reinhardt, probably my favourite guitarist of all guitarists. I remember many moons ago when I was 16, my dad threw a cassette at me. That's how old I am. It was a cassette of Django. And I listened to this music. I was sat at the table listening to this music, and it just blew my mind. The beautiful melodies, the virtuosity, the sheer brilliance and beauty of the music. And then when my father told me, he said, "Hey, did you know that Django, he was badly burnt in a fire? His caravan caught on fire and these two fingers were all burnt up. So when he played, he only played with these two fingers." Yeah. When I heard this, this music I was hearing, the brilliance of it, and then I found out that he's only using two fingers, I'm like, whoa, this is just insane, and my brain melted. And ever since that day, I've been a massive Django Reinhardt fan. And today I thought it would be nice to do a lesson where I show you 3 techniques to really Djangofy your playing. Those techniques are going to be enclosures, arpeggios, and bends. Okay, let's start off with enclosures, because that riff I played at the start is an excerpt from Minor Swing, which is probably Django's most famous song, maybe even. It's certainly a big favourite amongst Gypsy Jazz players because it's kind of nice and easy to play over to a certain degree. It's fun to play over. It's got beautiful melody. It's very iconic Django sound. So I would recommend going out, listen to Minor Swing. If you want to learn to play a song, that would be a nice one to do. If you want to try and improvise over a song, that's a nice one to start with. And in this song, it contains, in that very start of that melody, it contains an enclosure. Now, what is an enclosure? An enclosure is essentially you have a note, and then you target that note via a note above it and a note below it. Okay? So you take the note above it and the note below it, and you kind of enclose that target note inside. So the Django enclosure is that. And then it'll go up, like in this case. Normally you get the enclosure and then it goes up to a note. So if you hear it with the music, you hear? It's that note, and you're enclosing it with that note above and that note below. So let's look at that enclosure. It's over the A minor chord, and the target note is A, so we're targeting the root. Okay, we start off here on the B, so the 9th, and we do a pull off. So it's the high E string. We pull off from that 7th fret to the 5th fret. That's the first move. And then we go to that low note of the enclosure, which is going to be the G sharp. So we do a pull off and then a slide down. Okay? And then we slide up again. Back to the A. And that's the enclosure. A little tip, if you're playing like a normal acoustic guitar like mine, if you're playing a Djangofy or a Gypsy Jazz guitar, they kind of have a bit more cut, let's say. But if you're playing a normal guitar like mine, standard acoustic, I would recommend you hit this up near the bridge, because then you get a nice cut. Yeah. You get that nice cut if you play up by the bridge. Okay. So that's the enclosure. Pull off from the 7th to the 5th. Slide down to the 4th, slide back up to the 5th, and then normally you will get a note higher up to move to. In this case, it moves up to the 9th, so the minor 9, that note there. Now, we can do enclosures on any chord, and you just target a chord tone. So let's find this particular loop from Minor Swing that I made. It contains A minor, D minor, and E7. So let's find enclosures for those other two chords. We've got A minor already. let's do D minor. So I'm going to target the third, the minor third, which is an F note. Then I'm going to play the same shape as I did with the A minor. So 2 frets up, one tone up from that target note, which in this case on the B string, 8th fret is this G note, and then pull off down to that minor third, the F note. And then, just like I did before, slide down 1 fret and then come up 1 fret. Same. So this is the A minor, the D minor, and then where can we take it? We can go. Now let's take it to. We can maybe take it to the 6th, because in this example on minor swing, they play this arpeggio that ends on this 6th note. So it's really kind of like outlining a D minor 6 chord. So we could go something like, and finish on that 6th. That would be nice. So the first one, that, by the way, that note there is the 6th note is that I'm playing there is the 7th fret of the high E. So enclosure, end on that note. The first one, actually it's the same note we're finishing as the first one, so that's nice. Except in the first case it's the 9th of A minor, and in the second one it's the 6th of D minor. Now let's move on. E7. This time I want to target, let's target this note as well, which was the 5th of E7, the B. And we're going to do the same shape for the enclosure. So up 2 frets to the 9th fret of the high E string, and then pull off to that B on the 7th fret, and then a slide down and a slide up. Okay, just like before. Let's play the 7th, because it's a dominant 7th chord, right? The dominant 7th is the D. So we can do this. So all 3, it's the first one, second one, third one. Let's see what they sound like, okay? Over the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. Very Django, you know? You've got that enclosure, you do that beautiful enclosure, and then you find a note that you want to hit from within the chord higher up, and it's going to sound beautiful and very Django. Okay, so we've done some enclosures. At this point I'll tell you what I just played there. I'm going to make a little tab for it, and I'm going to put it on my Buy Me a Coffee page, and then it'll be available for download. I'll explain a little bit later about that. So we've done enclosures. We're already sounding Django. Now, let's move on to arpeggios. Okay, so in that, again, in that first example, it does this. That's an arpeggio. And like before we were doing the D minor 6, it's an arpeggio of the D minor 6. And when you do this, when you run through the notes of the chord and arpeggiate them, it really sounds very, again, very Django. So let's find, just like we did with the enclosures, let's find an arpeggio for each of these 3 chords. We already have the D minor 6 one, so that's the arpeggio we're going to use. We're just going to do those top 3 strings, okay? So first note is the 6th, and that is on the 4th fret of the G string. Move up to the 7th fret of the G string, 6th fret of the B string, 5th fret of the high E string, ending on the 7th fret of the high E string. Come back down, 5th fret high E, 6th fret B, 7th fret G, finish on the 4th fret G. So all together, that's the arpeggio we're going to look at. That's D minor 6. What about for the A minor? Let's just do a straight up A minor arpeggio, taking the top 4 notes of this A minor chord here. Okay, so 7th fret D string, and then 5th fret G, 5th fret B, and 5th fret A. So that's the arpeggio. Now, very simple. Next one, E7. Now, also in that very first example, which was taken, which was me attempting to play what Django played in minor swing, he also did this. Well, that's an arpeggio for the E7, okay? And again, I'm just using those top 3 strings this time. So, let's have a look. 4th fret G string, 7th fret G string, 5th fret B string, 4th fret E string, 7th fret E string, okay? So, beautiful, and that's an E7 arpeggio, okay? So we've got 3 little arpeggios we can use here. Let's have a look and see what they sound like over the music. So, you can hear, just by arpeggiating the notes from those chords, you just get that gypsy jazz vibe. Again, you know, just mix it all up, you know, throw in the enclosure, play a little bit through the scale or whatever, throw in an arpeggio, you're just joining these things together and getting that, and trying to create beautiful melodies, essentially. But Django loved using these arpeggios very much. And I would recommend using them too. Like I said before, you can just extract, you know, like I love doing it on these top 4 strings. You can extract it from a major chord. That's just that one, you know. You can extract it from the minor chord. You can extract it from this minor 7 here, whatever. You can go. You can extract those notes from any chord and just play them one at a time and arpeggiate them, and it's going to sound great. Okay, moving on. So we've done enclosures, arpeggios. Now the next one, bends. Now this is an interesting one because jazz in general is not really famous for bends. You know, we think of it more with the blues when you're playing. You think of it more like that kind of playing, you know, playing those big tone bends, you know. And look, if I do that now, it'll work, but it's not going to sound like gypsy jazz. Listen. You know, it works, but it's not gypsy jazz, because those bends, you know, those tone bends, you know, you associate more with blues and rock. And if you're like me, where you perhaps came to jazz via those genres, you know, I remember once I did this like jazz session and these guys were looking at me like, get out, you know, because I was doing these big tone bends, and I was like, for me it sounded cool, but it just wasn't jazz, you know. But that being said, it's not that bends don't exist in jazz. Actually, Django Reinhardt loved using bends. They were just different bends. Okay, he would use, for example, you know, in blues, that bend I did there, I'm going from the dominant 7, and the minor 7, and I'm bending it up to the root. So I'm bending up to the root note. You're doing a lot of root note bends where you're trying to bend up to that root note. But in gypsy jazz, it's different. Django would bend up to the 9th, for example, of a chord. So in the case of A minor, the 9th is the B. If you don't know about the numberings, you know, it's like if you take the A scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and count up. Look, that's why this chord is called a minor 9, because it has this 9th. You're just counting up the scale to get those numbers, okay? So that's the 9. We already learned earlier the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? We already learned the 6, okay? So we know the 9 and we know the 6. We want to bend up to those notes, and those bends are going to be cool, you know. And it's not like a full tone bend. We're going to do like more of a semitone bend, because it sounds a bit more jazzy. In jazz, they love the semitones. Pretty cool. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Let's try and bend up to the 9th on that A minor. Oh, that sounded totally Gypsy Jazz, right? So we bent up to the 9, then we brought it back down, and then hit that A note as it changed to the D minor. And what's A in D minor? It's the 5th. So we went bend up to the 9th of A minor, and then brought it down to the 5th. Let's try again. Very cool, eh? And that's the 9th. Okay, now let's try and do the 6th. The 6th works as well. You know, we can bend up to that 9th and we can bend up to the 6th. Generally speaking, you'll notice that they bend up and then they just bring it back down into a note from the next chord, like I did here. Bend it up to the 9th and then bring it down to that 5th. Or in this case, I bent it up to the 6th. And then actually if I come down, I'm already at the minor 3rd of the D minor, okay? So, let's have a look at the other chords and what we can do. Can we do any bends on those? I'm going to try the 9th on all of them, okay? So it would be like, that's the A minor. Let's take it up on the E string so it's easy to get your head around. So the D minor is up here on the 10th fret, and the 9th, just like you would have this shape where the root is on the 5th of the high E, the 9th is on the 7th, up one tone. If I do the D minor, it's the same. So there we are. The D minor is on the 10th fret, and the 9th note is on the 12th fret. Let's do the E7 as well, okay? The 9th would be so the root is on the 12th fret, and the 9th is on the 14th fret. Always a tone above the root, okay? So I went like this. That would make sense to do the same on the D. Let's do it on the E7. Okay, same riff. Let's have a go. It works, right? Those bends, they sound so Django if you bend up to that 9th, but also if you bend up to the 6th. Let's try the 6th. So the 6th in the case of A minor is this one. So F sharp note. In the case of D minor, we remember from the arpeggio, it's the B note. And what would the 6th be on the E dominant 7? It's this note here, C sharp. Normally called a 13th actually for those of you jazzers. So we're gonna go. We're gonna bend up here. We'll do it here again. We'll do it simple, like just taking this minor shape up to this. So it would be this minor shape up to this minor shape, and then we play it up here again, just like we did before with the 9ths. So. It would be like that, right? Let's try it. Okay. Cool, huh? It just sounds so Django. If you do those bends, semitone bend up to the 9th, semitone bend up to the 6th, it's going to sound Django. Then you start adding all of that stuff together, the arpeggios, the enclosures, the bends, you might get something like this. just as an example. And you start adding those things together and you start getting some really nice Gypsy Jazz sounding, Django sounding playing. So that's all I wanted to say today. I'm already at 23 minutes. My God, that's a big lesson. So, enclosures, arpeggios, bends. The three I've shown you. I'm going to actually knock up a little tab for you so you can have a look at what I've shown you today. I'll give a little example of each of those things, which you can get from my Buy Me a Coffee page. Now look, my Buy Me a Coffee page, there's always the facility, the option to donate something, which is good for me because, you know, I'm an impoverished musician. But if you haven't got any money, don't worry about it. It's a free download, so you can download it. But if you do get a free download, you can also help me out by subscribing to my channel, like my video, share my video, you know, tell all your friends, whatever. Every little helps. So, thank you very, very much for watching my lesson today. I hope this inspires you to go and Djangofy your playing. I've got plenty of other lessons. I've got a nice lesson if you want to get into jazz, for example. I've got a nice lesson on mapping the changes. You know, I'll pop it over there. Click on that, and then you get some more jazz inspiration. Anyway, have a lovely day, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Ciao.